Bonjour. Bonjour, how are we?
I'm good, mate. I am well, thank you.
Good.
You're looking good, man.
You know, my screen's always bigger than yours.
Oh.
Good. Let's try this new thing, yeah? So let's go. We're going to go live, yeah? 3.
Well, what have I got to do?
We're going to go live to the world.
What do you mean?
No, not really. I'm joking.
Oh.
We're live. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 19 of the Coffee with Sam podcast. Now, today's guest needs no introduction. He's living on my podcast. This is the 3rd one now, right?
This is number 3.
And when we're together, you have not just 2 of the best looking beards in the cheer industry, but in the UK right now. That's what I'm talking about. And if you're on Apple iTunes, you do not get to see these beauties of a beard. We have today Mr. Bear DRYLLS. I need one of them horns still. I still need a horn. How are we?
I need to get a little bit more light. Let me turn my TV around a little bit. This might be a bit better.
That's it. So do a smashing introduction, and then you just do me like that.
No, it's a smashing introduction. You can cut this. You can edit.
Not even ready. Look at that mustache.
No, it's all right, isn't it?
So last time you guys on YouTube, you saw us, we both looked a bit overgrown on our top, on our hair, on our beards. Now we're fresh.
You're looking fabulous. You're like Aaron Ramsey.
I'm trying. Dude, I was going to get rid of this. And then my barber was like, keep it. He was like, I've never seen you with long hair and a beard. Keep it. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Do it.
He was like, I'm so annoyed I can't shape your beard for you. Because obviously at the moment they can't go around your face, can they?
Oh, the guys did mine.
I'm going to London to get my beard trimmed.
We do our thing down here, mate. I didn't realise that. The guy just went zoop, zoop, and across. That was it.
Oh, no, they couldn't. They could literally fade the beard in, and that was it. That was it.
Oh, well, my guys are breaking the rules then, so.
So, how are we? How's business?
Yeah, going really well, thanks, mate. Keeping busy. Doing lots of Zoom classes and Zoom one-to-ones, which has been quite nice. And actually, one of my, I suppose, the best thing that I've enjoyed doing is just trying to be a bit more creative and a bit more innovative, and thinking about how we can teach tumble without having to feel like you need to throw the skill to progress. And so that we can make sure that athletes are as prepared as they can be for when they do get
skills.
That's it.
Now I need to bang that horn again. Me.
It's all about the puzzle pieces, mate. It all come together.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. So, guys, if you're still not after 2 podcasts not following Bear DRYLLS, Rob, then follow him. He has the best home tumble drills. Still, obviously, big announcement today that we can actually go back to cheer and we can get back to the gym. But training at home, get on his YouTube, The Bear Cave, and he's coming up with some of the most creative and safe ways to drill your skills without throwing the skill and being dangerous with it when you haven't got spots, which should be a lot of good athletes going into the gyms now with ready for new skills, if not new skills.
This is all really kind of opened my mind, actually, because although we encourage athletes to train at home or condition at home, I don't think, for me personally anyway, I don't think I've ever really thought enough about what that actually means.
Yeah.
And so it's been quite an interesting experience trying to piece together something that's going to have a long-term implication. So I was speaking to Angela yesterday, and I just said, even though we're going to be going back into a gym environment where contact is still going to be severely restricted and reduced and everything else, and rightly so, in terms of actual delivery, I feel like there is still massive opportunities to be able to help athletes to progress. And so I'm really excited about that, because although I love, creating drills and having athletes try to do different things with equipment, again, equipment is still going to be a little bit restricted as well. So how are we going to teach athletes? And so although it's difficult to talk about silver linings of everything that's been going on over the last few months, in terms of what I feel like me personally, I'll be able to take back into the gym and do with athletes, I'm actually quite excited about it, because I feel like I've been able to rethink my whole approach in a different way and perhaps add to it. Because I used to be really keen on shapes, and shapes were really exciting, and how I could use shapes to then, condition muscle memory and everything else. But then I've also spent a lot of time looking at muscle memory, flexibility and explosive power, and how that can be used. And, going through the Zoom classes and feeling like you're learning something new every time to be able to put into practice has been a real kind of like epiphany. So I'm excited to be able to do that when we do get back into the gym.
Yeah, well, it's been perfect for you, because you were pushing the UK leader, driving this movement of hands-off approach, massive with the educational company BGU too, and making a lot safer environment for kids to try and start doing their shapes and their skills before. So this happening has been great for you to, like you say, open your mind and create that syllabus, or whatever you want to call it, that you actually probably should have created before, but because you weren't forced into it, you couldn't be creative enough with it. Whereas because you've been stuck at home, or you've wanted to help people who are at home, it's just made you broaden the movement you were already, and the UK, to me, is trying to drive.
So I was really lucky. So about 4-5 years ago, I was doing a lot of work with Gareth at Big G and Big G tumbling and going around doing clinics that way. And so from that, I was picking up a lot of ideas in terms of how you could teach drills or create stations to progress drills. But then we kind of went really hard on the no hands approach, and we were only sort of doing transitional spotting. Obviously with clinics, it's a little bit different, because you also want to be able to show athletes how they can do something. So maybe you're a little bit more hands-on in that context. But we were kind of trying to do that as early as 4 or 5 years ago. And then it's progressed to the point where it's become quite a mainstream thing for people to be doing, which has been lovely. And then, as you say, the work with BGU has kind of really pushed that as well. But I felt like, alongside the shapes, I guess, there was that bit before that I never really appreciated or did enough with. And so being able to do that here, like I've spent, because I was ill, I've spent most of the last 4 or 5 months at home anyway. I haven't really gone anywhere. So these 4 walls here in my living room have been where I've done everything.
So what is that bit before shapes?
So the bit before shapes, the shapes, I suppose, are a consequence of what could have been done before. So for me, it was kind of looking at more, trying to be innovative with a bit more with flexibility, or how you could push flexibility, and also mobility and range. And, I spoke to you about how when I was doing the challenge, how the range that I was sort of developing was just incredible, and how it made me feel, and the pressure on my back, and trying to be an athlete, and that pressure not being there anymore. It made me think, well, these are the types of things that cheerleaders could benefit from, and I'm not even looking into it. And it made me think that actually, and it's nice because I want to be learning all the time, but it made me think that I maybe needed to redirect the way I was trying to learn, and look at different ways of trying to learn, because you have people that you look up to, and you have certain things that you read, or certain Instagram things that you follow, and things like that. And then you think, well, what else is there? So for me, I started looking at yoga and how yoga can be used, or how I could use yoga. I started researching varieties of squats, just different things that are about explosive power, for argument's sake, that would really benefit an athlete from an athletic position into a skill, but then also from a squat into a stunt. And those kind of innovations are really hot right now. You know, you only have to look at what Spring CDT are doing with BASE and that new kind of innovation and approach towards stunting that's coming through. And actually, there's no reason why there shouldn't necessarily be something like that for tumbling either, because the more physically equipped an athlete is coming in to learn a skill, there's a reason why it takes an athlete 4 years to learn how to back handspring. And it's not because the athlete or the coach that's teaching them isn't good enough. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. What I'm trying to say is that if there are a variety of ways to learn something and a variety of ways to learn to do something, then we have more chance of success.
So did you find whilst doing the program you were set, guys, if you didn't see the other videos above this, get onto them. Rob challenged himself. I set him a program. He followed a training program of how I do things and the main things that I focus on. And one of my big things is mobility. That's what my main goal is to go towards mobility, and that people can move better once their joints, hips, ankles, shoulders can move better. So Rob challenged himself to also not just to feel better, but also get fit. I told him he was going to 100%, he was going to feel better, because that's what my programs are for. So what Rob's talking about with his back and his lower, that he was going through a lot of mobility stuff, but working out at the same time. So let's go through that. How was that for you?
So
it was doing something new? Because mobility for a lot of people, especially when you're trying to get cheerleaders to do it, because static stretching has been such a big thing. I find when I go and do clinics, or when I'm teaching for BGU, or even at my program, it's very, well, this isn't normal. This is weird, because mobility is how flexible you are in a range of movements and whilst you're going through movement. Also adding strength with that. But it's very hard to get athletes to do it because they find it weird. So how did you find it when I'm told you to do it in your living room?
So for me initially, it was more about, obviously I wanted to lose weight, and I wanted to feel like, because I'd had corona and I'd been bedbound for a long time, when I was finally out and about again, I felt massively kind of depleted in my hamstrings and my back, and so I felt kind of weak anyway, and that made me quite tight. And that might have been anxiety as well, but I also could feel that I wasn't as, I didn't have the same capacity that I did before. So it was really important for me to be able to build up my cardio again, but also build up some level of strength as well as range. So the first week was, I felt pretty good. So the first week I had that kind of cockiness where I was kind of like, yeah, I smashed the first week. Although those leg switches are the devil. They are literally the devil. You kind of do 10 and you kind of think like, oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident about this. When you got to 15 and 20 leg switches, and I honestly, the feeling in my hips was horrendous.
Then let's hold you there. So that's another great thing that I go on. So these leg switches, all the jump technique, all that stuff always comes into people's programs. What you've got to do, once you've tightened that muscle and strengthened it, you've then got to put it through a range of movement. So how did you feel after doing the switches, to then have to maybe the next day or that same day do the mobility, the hip mobility?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like it complement. I mean, obviously the program is set up to complement everything, and I really felt like I could feel that complement. So
thank you, sir.
No, thank you.
But if I can.
But even for like burpees, and that switch of having to go from like a front support, bringing your legs into a tuck to be able to stand back up again, I could feel my hips working. I could feel that my hamstrings weren't pulling as much. And I spoke to you a lot about how I really enjoyed doing the squat work, particularly, because I felt like it really did make a difference. And then that's when I started looking at things like yoga approaches to hip flexibility and hip mobility. And I don't know, there's something called I think it's called a Yogi Bear in yoga, and I started doing that as a consequence of looking at squats and how squats can be, you know, really improve the range and leaning back on your heels and things like that. And so the squats thing particularly was a big deal for me because I spend so much time teaching athletic position. So looking at different ways to sort of play with squats and hip mobility was incredibly important to me. Even down to things like open the gate and close the gate exercises where you bring your knee up and then out to the side and back in again. All those things made huge differences, particularly on my lower back, which was really important. So that was fantastic. And as I said, I felt really cocky in week 1. And it's quite funny because I did 4 weeks worth of videos, and each video has like a different kind of dynamic to it. So in week 1, it was obviously that I was kind of plowing through the exercises, doing them in my garden, the sun was shining, it was fantastic, you know, and then I was kind of like at the end saying, oh yeah, definitely 1-0. And then week 2, I don't know what happened, and it was horrendous, and I had to like go through these breathing exercises and like, you know, got some information from you talking about depth of fields, and then the breathing exercises I had to laying on the floor, and I absolutely got whitewashed that week, and it was horrible. So that was, but I mean, in all of this, to be fair, I didn't mind so much getting my backside handed to me because I could feel the progression, and now I can see the progression as well.
This is also where, so what you're saying, it's good to get deep into that second week of, well, we're not going to talk about specifics because it's confidential, but the fact that it's not just, when people think fitness is just fitness or training is just training, sometimes you do just need to talk to somebody because it will bring stuff like that out in you. You'll want to give up, and it will bring other things into play, which is to why my job, your job as well. Yeah, you might be a top tumble coach, but then you might have to deal with something else too. And it's the same with a fitness instructor, a PT, strength and conditioning coach. I just gave you a plan, but then the next week I was then talking you to, because things were affecting your plan. And that's what going for goals and reaching for stuff, it can happen. Like, it just draws mad stuff out of you, and you want to speak to people about stuff. But if you don't open up, you could have been stuck for the whole 4 weeks, and we could be talking now, and you could have failed.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is what I was thinking though. It was nice to feel like I was failing because it made me appreciate more the athletes that I'm working with, because I'm not competitive anymore. I don't compete, you know, so I don't have to deal with that kind of, I want to be able to learn to do this tumble, or I want to be able to learn how to do a toss QP, you know, whatever it is. I don't have to kind of deal with that kind of pressure that I put on myself, because I don't do it anymore in that capacity. If I want to stunt, I'll stunt because it's fun, not because and stunting is fun, obviously, but not because I feel like I've got to put, it's not because it's going into a routine, for argument's sake, you know, which has a different type of pressure. So it was nice to feel like I was failing, because then having to regroup, doing breathing exercises to kind of mentally prepare yourself for every minute on the minute workout, you know, those types of things were really helpful, because actually I spend loads of time talking to my athletes about being mentally prepared for competing. I do it in a different way.
She likes being in their shoes for a change.
Yeah.
Having someone else on the other side, being you and such. Yeah.
Being the person who was vulnerable.
Yeah.
In that kind of way.
Yeah. I get it. So you keep talking about the breathing exercises. How, just to state to everyone, everything I do is what I do on research and on evidence, and also on that it helps me. So everything goes in my program is because I've done it and it's helped me. So my breathing exercises are massively pushed by Wim Hof. If you want to take a look, and the Iceman, he's got some other crazy radical ideas, but all it was the breathing mixed in with a few other techniques that I find help me. So they're in my programs. There's a video tutorial. How do you find that they worked for you, Rob?
So I suppose the primary thing was about reducing anxiety and kind of just because, you know, if you've got a certain challenge where you're kind of like, oh, that's a lot to do in this amount of time, then you can think, oh, it's going to be difficult to do, and that can kind of build you up. So it was nice in that capacity, but it was also nice because it made me feel like I had more oxygen or more in the engine to be able to like push through and do a certain thing, which I thought was really important, because actually if you're not breathing while you're exercising, then you're fatiguing. So it was nice to kind of really load myself up with the oxygen and you know, feel stronger for longer, and you know, capable for longer. So that was good. And actually, because I started, because of the way that the challenge was going, and I started exploring yoga as well, because that was so built up around breathing, it was kind of it was nice to be able to learn how to breathe in two different capacities, and apply them. Because, you know, if you've got an athlete who's nervous, if I'm getting an athlete to throw to attempt a skill, then I'll be like, go over there, take a deep breath, visualize performing the skill the best you've ever performed it, and then, you know, perform the skill, whatever approach I'm taking. But it normally does involve taking a deep breath and then thinking. But it was nice to try it in a different way. You know, what I was advising athletes to do, and it helped, obviously. What I was advising the athletes was good, or it was good for them. But we're talking of maybe 10, 20 seconds worth of meditation, whereas actually what I was trying to do myself here was more maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of meditation. And so that was quite good to do, because you've probably done it before, but we get athletes to visualize before they go onto the floor, and they get in a big circle, they lay on the floor and the music's playing. And actually they're breathing and visualizing the whole time, which is about 2.5, 3 minutes worth of laying on the floor breathing. So actually we're kind of getting them to do it anyway, but maybe not as consciously as we could be. So that's made me think about it.
One of my other podcasts, I think it might have been the second one after you, we had Dan on. He spoke about visualization and breathing. And obviously we still haven't been back in the gym yet since, but visualization is something massive that the program I coach for, we do that. We always have done that. It's something I found amazing when I first went to Worlds, that's what we were going to do. And I thought, whoa, what is this? What are we doing? And it does naturally, and all it is the focus. You're focusing on listening to the music and visualizing. Your heartbeat naturally comes down. Your anxiety naturally comes down. So if you then add that with actually teaching them to breathe, you could bring their anxiety and their levels right down just before competition. But also at home, like you say, learning to breathe, getting more oxygen in, actually allows you to train better, to relax better. And we don't, as humans, we can actually get back problems from not breathing properly. We can get spinal neck problems from not breathing properly, because our ribs don't spread out enough, which is what the breathing I gave you was based on, was trying to get your stomach breathing, your ribs, and try and make yourself as big as possible, because you said you were quite stiff, to open up all your muscles around your ribs and all that. So then you do relax when you come out of it. So that type of breathing is like, it's just got so many positive feelings. How do you feel you have, saying it wrong, improved from obviously having COVID? So if listeners, viewers don't know, my boy had COVID. I joked about it. I had him on the phone and actually was ripping him about it. And then he disappeared for 2 weeks and he actually had COVID-19, but fully recovered now. But main reason for doing the program was because his breathing was massively suffering. How have you repaired? How have you improved from having COVID?
I think it's a lot better. So I remember I was trying to build myself back up to a 5K, and I just could not get anywhere. It was really rough. So breathing capacity is a lot better. Posture is better, which then makes breathing capacity better. Just about to say,
if you go back and you look at our first podcast, then you'll see how your posture is different. I was just about to say to you how freely, let's put my coffee down, how freely you're moving. People on Apple iTunes, I'm just showing up. Rob, he's moving better. If you go back to the first one, you were quite stiff and down.
Yeah.
Where now you're moving, your arms are moving, you're free, you look relaxed, and yeah, you're sitting
I honestly can feel it, especially in the top half, you know, can really kind of fit. Because at first I thought I was peacocking and kind of walking around like this, you know, but actually it's just because I'm a lot straighter.
No, you do. You say that, but I actually say that's the problem with society. So women, males, women get knocked down for don't walk around with your breasts out. Why are you sticking your breasts out? So then they naturally hunch over. Males, why are you walking around with your chest out like you're something special?
Peacocking. Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm just walking how I should be, and I feel that's going into probably another complete different podcast. But I say that to a lot of my clients and to a lot of athletes that it's natural these days to not want to walk around with correct posture because you get why are you sticking your breasts out? Why are you sticking your chest out? Why do you think you're special? It's like, well, I'm not. I just don't have a bad back, mate.
But I've actually been noticing it as well. Like I walk around and I look at the way people stand and I'm like, you can sort of see where the posture is kind of like.
For someone like me who's only 5'5", it makes me 5'6" if I stand and get a good posture. Like
I'm touching 6 foot now, mate. I was 5'11". I'm touching 6.
I mean, mate, yeah, I grow and I do. For someone like me, that to get that little bit taller, if I have to stand correctly, but you do, you notice it. How is that giving you confidence though?
Well, so I'm running a lot better. So for me, I used to run a lot and I used to really enjoy running. And by running, I mean decent enough that I could do a half marathon. All right. So I was a pretty good runner and I ran comfortably. My posture wasn't good then either, but I was fit enough that I was running well. So when I'm running now, I'm still only around I can do 2 miles non-stop. And that's a really big achievement for me right now. And I feel like I'm getting to the point where I could probably push that now. But when I'm running, I can feel my old strides, you know, and I can feel the range of particularly the range. Mobility has been really important for me anyway, but I can feel the range. I can feel the kind of the way I can swing my arms a lot better, and I'm running upright, which means I'm getting good oxygen in. So those kind of things that you can really see the benefit. Obviously, the visual thing is that I can see that there's good weight loss there, and there's good weight distribution, or there's better weight distribution. There's still a way to go, but you know, there's I'm just able to do more for longer. You know, so like in the last video I did to kind of close up week 4, I kind of did the whole build up towards Everest, and that Everest was the every minute on the minute for 15 minutes. And I knew it was going to deck me. Like I honestly knew what was coming, or I kind of had an idea of what was coming. I knew it was going to be horrible. Not how horrible, but I knew it was going to be rough, right? So I did my breathing exercises. I did the yoga for hips before I did. Like I really prepared myself. It's like I studied for this exam. And so every minute on the minute for 15 minutes, it might not seem like it's not a long time. And it wasn't a long time. I felt like it was done as soon as I'd started. But, you know, you're doing, for argument's sake, I think it was 6 push-ups, 6 burpees and 6 hip jumps, I think, every minute on the minute for 15 minutes, which means you're active for about 30 seconds because the burpees can take a little bit longer, right? But for that 30 seconds, it's just full out. It's just like full out cardio, full out endurance. And then you're doing it for 15 minutes. And you get to like round 5 and you'll think, oh yeah, that's pretty calm. But after 5 minutes, you've done 30 push-ups and you've got another 60 to go, you know? And so actually it does mount up quite quickly and the numbers do start piling up and you're kind of like, oh my God, you know? So you see the video, absolutely drenched afterwards, but it was fantastic. Yeah, that's what I mean. I finished and I was buzzing because I was just like, I could like feel the energy and feel the do you know what it was like? When I completed it, it's not the same level, but it was like when you've come off the floor after performing a routine.
Yeah.
That's the kind of feeling I had after, because it was so important to me. Like, I know that it's a general workout, and over time I've done more, and it's the feeling isn't the way that it was, but because I built up so much for it, and for me it was really important to do it and to achieve it. I kind of built myself up so much for it, so that when I did it, it was kind of like coursing through me, that I'd done a 15-minute every minute on the minute. And since then I have done more. I do 100 to 1 and do 10. This is push-ups, and I do 10 every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, and that's just part of a thing I do now, because it was motivating, because you could get a workout done, and I don't have loads of time to spend doing these crazy extended workouts, and your workouts aren't long at all, which is great, by the way. Some of them depends on how you pace them, but I always try to do it with about a 30-second break in between, if I could, so that I was always repping and always busy, and I felt that helped me too. But life is busy, and just because we're not necessarily in our gyms right now, I'm still homeschooling, I'm still doing other classes, I'm still learning and researching and doing upper house. Like, there's still other things going, so you don't have a lot of time. So if you can bang something out in 20 minutes and feel absolutely knackered from doing it, then yeah, sign me up. So
love that. So lots and lots of positives.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finished it. I knew you would, and I'm glad you feel better. I'm glad you have loads and loads of positives. You can't really bring a negative from working out, to be honest. You cannot bring a negative from...
I think it was better because the guidance was good. It's a bit like if you learn how to throw a back handspring, but you're throwing your head and then not correcting it. Yeah. The guidance was good. I was able to progress, and that was really important, because anyone could have said, oh well, do 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups and do that in a rep of 4 for whatever, and then move on to sit-ups. Like, people can say those types of things, but the way that they were packaged, the way that certain exercises were grouped, all of those things were really important, and then alongside the other stuff that I was doing too, the breathing and trying to learn how to manage that in terms of how would that help me here in the exercises and stuff. So I think that was really important as well. The direction was good.
Yeah. That's the thing. To me, exercise is exercise. And like with cheer, we can all do a lunge, we can all do a squat, we can all do this, we can all do that. It's how you teach those positions. So like you were saying, that you've been looking deeper into feet positions. Obviously, when I've got clients, when I've got time and we spend time with them, I talk about all that, because you lean on your toes to lean on your heels. It actually activates complete different parts of your legs, complete different parts of your body, which then can cause to your lower back problems, which is where I have brought mobility into cheerleading. And well, my approach was, I'm not going to come along and just be a normal fitness guru and be like, let's do loads of lunges and this, that, the other. Yes, they're in there because you have to do those movements, but it's the weird points, the weird planes of movement that I try and push. One, because it's different, and two, because that's the positions we just get stiff. We just get stiff doing the one plane of movement, forward, backwards, side, 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 side. You're not going side to side with your knee hanging out the one side, and because that's what cheerleading is. You're never in a perfect squat because you've got someone above your head, and you're one leg's in a lunge and one leg's sticking out the other side, and it's never going to be perfect. So mobility is great for that. And like you said, with your back, like, is it your lower back that feels a lot better? Yeah. So it's like that. What reason why I wanted to do it too was I've suffered with lower back. I've suffered with lower back problems. Half of teams I've been on have all had lower back problems. So it's always like, through my job, it was like, why? So I've always looked into that. And that's where the name, the body mechanic, come from, because actually in my gym, and then obviously in my cheer gym too, I was always fixing people. So that's where the body mechanic came from. And it's because normal coaches, they look at the old stretching. Let's stretch the back, stretch the back, stretch the back, stretch the back. It's like, well, actually your abs are tight, which is why your back's hurting, or your hips are tight, or your hips and shoulders are tight. So then your back's taking all the strain. So like all you've done, we haven't stretched your back off. We've stretched your hips off, your ankles and your shoulders, and now your back's good. And it's like, that's where mobility just comes into its own, because people don't look at the mechanics of a body. They just think, well, that's hurting, stretch it. And I think that's the way cheerleading is going to go now, is because it's in football, it's in NFL, it's in tennis, it's in fighting or whatever. And cheerleading's very like, wow, we leave strength and conditioning alone. We leave all that alone. We just stretch and that's it. And I think that's where, to why you're now doing it, and to why I started doing it, is that more people need to talk about the in-depth stuff.
I also think that people are looking at it more as a taking a certain career path, but then adapting and putting it in for cheerleading as well. So you have lots of people who do like sports therapy or sports psychology, anything like that, right? But then people are looking at that more intrinsically in line with cheerleading, because they've done cheerleading while they're at uni and they've decided that actually that's a career path I'd like to look into. You know, there is going to be a market for that eventually, or a bigger market for that eventually.
As the sport gets bigger though, it's more acceptable. So if 10 years ago, I'd have walked into a gym and said, let's all do some duck walks, or let's get our hips more mobile, they'd have gone, no, we're just going to do a front split and a side split, and we're going to stretch our shoulders in one way. We're not going to go yeah, then we're going to go for it. Oh, my back hurts. We're not going to look at ankle mobility, knee mobility, hip mobility. We're not going to look at any of that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now I think because the sport's getting so much more recognition as a sport, still not there, but we'll say sport, and that it's becoming more athletically acceptable, people are like, well, yeah, let's do some strength and conditioning for it. Let's do some mobility for it. Let's actually get weights involved outside of the cheer gym. Do you know what I mean? I think because it's becoming more acceptable, people get involved in it. They say, oh, actually, yeah, I need to do that to get better. And not just...
I also think because there's this end product as well, where people are looking, I say end product, there's the mountaintops where people want to be competing at Summit, at Worlds and ICU Worlds, and you've got these cliff tops. People are looking at it and thinking, how do I get there? And actually, the athletes that are competing at Worlds, at Summit, as an example, aren't there by mistake. And I think that's really important as well. For the most part, the people who are going to Summit, to Worlds, they are not athletes that are there by mistake. Those athletes are some of the best athletes that this country has produced, you know, and I think that that's really important. And it's not because they've just come out of gymnastics and they can all throw double falls. No. A lot of cheerleaders now are cheerleaders first, and I think that's great, you know. And so
like I say, as the sport progresses, which is why we're getting higher up the ladder, is because we start to accept more things. We start to accept, let's get a coach in from outside. Let's get that bit of equipment. Let's try that new strength skill. Let's try that new flexibility skill. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we're accepting, like, we can actually be good at this. Let's start taking more steps.
But not even be good at it. We could be the first, or we could be among the first to kind of champion and lead this and become a benchmark for it, you know? And I think that's really important too.
Oh, definitely in America. I'd love to have a conversation with an American coach about it, because while I was out there was 10 people with lower minor fractures in their lower spine. And I tell you now, that was 100% down to that, like you, getting that pressure, and like myself when I was first started cheer, the pressure in the lower back because of joints above and below not moving correctly. And when those little muscles basically tighten up to save the back, you've got loads of little muscles around holding all your spine together and all your vertebrae, they tighten up. And the next thing to go is your bone. So then you get your slight minor hairline fractures. And they were all near enough the same x-rays because of it. And I guarantee you it was down to that, because it's very, like I say, if you walked in there and said mobility, they'd be like, we win worlds every year, it's fine. They wouldn't listen to it. But then I'm like, you've got 10 athletes that have got lower fractures in your spine. So I think, like you say, we are doing something good in the UK because there's not just me and you talking about it. There's a lot of people talking about it. It's massive in CrossFit now. And I think CrossFit really helped because they led it like, we need to do this. But the UK are leading it. And especially if people like me and you keep shouting it and screaming it from the rooftops, we will lead it. And hopefully stop some of those injuries. Cause I think that's why when I set up the company Cheerprecision, that was going to be my goal. Wasn't going to be to get people hella fit and get abs and get them ripped. It was mobility, it was conditioning, but not just jumping around and rolling around to get conditioned. It was being scientific and professional with it. And that was what the company was for. I'm glad that we've got another voice to shout it. You got a big platform to do it. And I say, if we can stop people, the main thing will be injuries. Yes, performing better, but if we can prevent injuries,
by doing less. Do you know what I mean? Stretching, for argument's sake, or doing mobility work is difficult work. Or it's not difficult work, it's work. You still have to work out to be able to get good dynamism or whatever, right? But it's less pressure on your body than throwing 20 round off flick doubles, all right? And then going home with a bad back, yeah? So that kind of work, if you spend 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just doing a little bit of mobility work will make a difference. And you might only have time to do 16 round off flick doubles or whatever. But because of the before and after care, you're going to be going home feeling, I feel like I've got more pain than I've had in years.
And you want to do a double again, not do I have to do a double again?
Yeah. You'll feel more capable, especially when people are running routines.
And I get it. It's hard, especially with cheerleading. It's hard because you're going from trying to have a hyperextended toe touch to then having a solid core to power through that double to then having a solid overhead squat. So your core and shoulder stability is great. Like, that is a lot of things to go from. Like, normal athletes, they'll have one thing, or like, do you know what I mean? They'll have one thing that they're solid at. Cheer athletes have to be able to be bendy as well as strong in so many different ranges and planes of movement. That's why before and after care is just very important, because of the extreme positions that we're putting our body through, and we need to be strong in those positions. But like you say, as a country, I think it's coming because we're starting to believe it. We're starting to believe that it's needed.
I also think that cheerleading is growing up.
Yeah, as it becomes more acceptable, I feel, to talk about it and to add things into it and to be more susceptible to doing things. Like you say, yeah, like growing up, it's not just a hobby sport anymore. It's let's knuckle down, let's put some time in, because we're going to be the best at it. So do you feel, have you carried anything on from the program? Or
yeah, no, so I still do a lot of mobility work. I mean, you know, things like push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, and the leg switches I've definitely kept up as well. But to be fair, what I tend to do is I tend to set myself up every day. So every morning I do yoga anyway, just because.
Namaste.
Namaste. No, every morning I do it. It makes me feel good, but also it's just wanting to continue with the range of movement, mobility, flexibility. My next thing now is flexibility in my hamstrings, and just to try and keep working that. And I work my hips every day anyway now. But when I've done that, I have my set workout that I want to do in the day, and I keep that up. Some days I don't do any workout; I just do running. But generally speaking, I'll have my set sort of structure where I'll have mobility workout. I've got I'm doing a lot of push-ups right now, so I'm just trying to work out different variations of push-ups and kind of playing with that a little bit. Burpees are still in there. Leg switches are my go-to exercise. I don't like doing them still, but they are my go-to one just because I can feel the work they're doing on my hips, and I like that feeling of.
Just make sure you are still doing a lot of your mobility on your hips, because they'll get hella tight doing so many of those.
Mm-hmm. No, I do. I do your squats, the wide set squats. I can almost get to the floor doing that now, actually.
Go on, then.
Yeah, I know.
Show us.
On, buddy.
Ah, no. If you see Bear Grylls at a competition, I guarantee you he'll have shorts on. So you want to see his deep squat.
I've got a deep squat. I can't do it with my feet facing forward yet. I'm getting lower, but I can do it with my feet facing outwards for the wide set
But if
squat.
you look at the anatomy of the body, you don't have to do them with your feet facing forward. So,
apart from with an athletic position.
In a squat, though, yeah, but it's not a squat, is it? It's a lunge, right? You mean that's a lunge? Do you mean
what, an athletic position?
Yeah.
Feet together, swing back.
Oh, as in to jump.
Yeah.
That's not really a squat, is it? Feet together. Squatting with your feet apart, like no one talks about a feet together squat. Come on, Rob. That's more.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. I started teaching athletic position with the legs slightly apart because it's not natural to jump with your feet together.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Don't force yourself to be able to get bum to ground with your feet together, because your hips, like you say, your hips need to move. They need to have space to move in the capsule.
Yeah. It's not a natural position. I try to not teach I try not to focus the athletic position on the feet together anymore, actually.
The athletic position is more of a hip hinge position.
A hip hinge?
Your hips hinge backwards.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
When you squatting down on your knees.
Is it an actual thing?
Yeah.
Is that an actual thing?
Yeah. So when you deadlift, you hip hinge. When you squat, you knees can go slightly forward.
I'm going to look more into hip hinges. Thanks.
So when you're doing your athletic, you go, how can I do this? Your hips go like this, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you squat, they go back, but they go down, and your knees can come forward. Oh, I need to bend that way. Your knees can.
No, I understand what you're saying. I do understand. Yeah.
So basically, when you do it,
you are still bending your legs a little bit, but I can see where a hip hinge would be more applicable. I'm going to look into a hip hinge because that would be really interesting to research.
So your hip hinge is when you work on your kneeling snaps from the ground with your arms.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hip hinge. That's a hip hinge.
Okay.
You're hinging backwards. When you deadlift, you get your hamstrings involved.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're squatting, it's more glutes and quad dominant.
Well, with the hinge, that would work the hamstrings, which is something I would like to personally work on for myself. So it'd be interesting to learn that and then apply it to teaching. Anyway.
So talking about your squat, your feet can go out when you've got your feet apart, because you say you need to with the hips. When your feet together, you can squat that way, but your athletic position is actually more of a hip hinge because your bum goes backwards to touch the wall.
That's good. I'm gonna. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. So let's wrap that up there. I'm glad that you feel better. I'm glad that you battled COVID. I'm glad that you've now got fitter. I'm glad you feel better. I'm glad you've learned. I'm glad it's sparked you to want to find different avenues to your teaching, because that's what we're all trying to do here in the UK. We're all trying to help each other to be the best country we can at our sport. I love talking to you. That's another 50 minutes of not even, guys, we didn't even plan questions today. We've just waffled, and we've brought absolute knowledge bombs to your ear holes and your eyeballs. So, boom, knowledge bombs in the ears, in the eyeballs.
And thank you to you as well, Sam. Thanks, man, because as I say, and I said it in my videos, If you haven't, guys, check it out, look it up, give him a message, because he will help you out. He'll have a look at what you're doing. He'll give you advice. Absolutely look into what Sam is doing, because for me, it's changed my perception on the way that I'm going to be delivering things anyway. It's made me feel good, and I wasn't sure where I'd ever had that kind of range again. So absolutely look into what Sam is doing. He's got his YouTube page, his Sam Thompson page, but then he also has his Precision page, which is absolutely worth looking at, and that's on his Instagram as well. So look it up.
Yeah,
all right, there's my plug.
Cheerprecision TVM, and then you got DRYLLS. It's DRYLLS, isn't it, on Instagram? Yeah.
Right.
We're both trying to make movements together. That's what you're getting from these podcasts. It's great to have conflict as well, because then you learn more from people talking. You learn more. If someone disagrees, you actually learn more from someone else.
100%.
Get on the YouTube channel, because this is the wrap up of Bear's challenge, of Rob challenging himself and him getting fitter. So please watch. There's 4 videos. There's 6 videos now, with the beginning podcast to the end podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being on episode number 19 of the Coffee with Sam podcast. Someone's in the background. Woo! Hello!
I can't believe you walked in just now. Can't
Hello!
believe it. Literally as we were rapping.
Special guest, Rob's love of his life. Is that who it was? It was the missus, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. You're saying Rob, the love of his life, and like someone, like grandma's walking in or something like. So people on Apple, people listening who can't see what's going on, Rob's missus just rocked in, wrapping up the perfect ending to a podcast. I love it, but I'm going to keep it in. Can't remember what I was saying. I'm laughing. My jaw's killing. Yeah, get on the YouTube. Have a look at every single video he's done. Look at his videos. Look at my videos. Look at the whole series of Rob getting fit. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being an amazing guest. I love chatting to you. Peace out. Episode number 19 of the Coffee with Sam podcast done. Episode number 3 with the Bear. And I will see you. We're out back in the gym, so hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, you will. You will.
Hopefully I'll see you soon. Much love.
Take care, mate. Love you.
Bye. Love you too. Mwah. What an episode that was, guys. So much knowledge. Yeah, we went deep then. Literally, that was meant to be a wrap up of the Bear versus Cheerprecision challenge. But we went deep into strength and conditioning, mobility, conditioning, fitness. My coffee's on its way back up. I'm just going to finish with the t-shirt that I'm wearing, guys. You can't really see it because it's so black on black, but it is my t-shirt company, my clothing brand that I've got called I Dare You Clothing, short IDU Clothing. And it is a brand that dares people to go out and do stuff, sports, business, fitness, life, whatever it is. The brand dares you to get your mind in it and go and do it. And we are supporting the BLM movement here at IDU, and myself. I really think that foundations is the key to foundations and education are the key to how a child or how an adult ends up growing up in this world. So I have designed this black on black limited edition BLM movement t-shirt, and all the profits are going to a charity that are putting books with Black, Asian, mixed, different race characters as the lead character, and also different coloured dolls into nurseries to start the foundations solidly at the lower level. So I believe that as a toddler, if they're playing with, I think it's a great charity. It's a great charity to start growing children for the future and their foundations. So if you'd like to get yourself, you can't really see it, which is annoying, go on at IDU Clothing on Insta, and there's some pictures on there. They're great fit, long-lasting t-shirt, ink printed. My clothing brand lasts forever, but this is the limited edition with all the profits going to that very special charity helping out nurseries against the fight for, we'd say racism, but the fight against equality and just teaching kids from the ground up that these things are not acceptable in this day, in 2020 and in the future. So thanks you guys for still tuning into the podcast. The link is in the bio to buy one of these t-shirts, and your profits, I say I'm not making, my company's not making any money out of this. All profits going to our charity, which is supporting the BLM movement. So thank you for tuning in for another week of Coffee with Sam podcast. Peace. Much love, Sam.